to let themselves in, because I'm a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous who lives in the middle of you. And I begin to walk through that experience. And I'm here to tell you guys that not only do we heal from the wounds of our own alcoholism and the alcoholism of those who have come before us, but we heal from anything that comes to us in this human condition of ours. If we will stay close to God and do God's work, God will then work in and through us. And we heal and we get delivered and we get spit out on the other side. And we are tougher and stronger and more connected than ever. And I had this moment, Lee had been gone not even a day, and people are calling from all over the country, right? And I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories, and I'll be done. So Walter H, he's an old timer from Houston, Texas, and he's one of my messengers, right? And I'm here to tell you that I believe that we all have messengers, right? And sometimes you're my messenger, and sometimes I'm your messenger, and some people you can't hear me at all, and I can't hear you, and that is fine, because there are messengers in this thing for all of us. And Walter is one of my messengers. He's just this old timer who's super rascally. I mean, he uses a lot of curse words. He tells stories that I am absolutely certain are not true. And every now and then he will just call me out of the blue and say, "Hey, darling, God told me to call you and tell you whatever." And it is always dead on exactly what I need. And so this day, right, I haven't slept and I'm exhausted and I'm not even sad yet, because I don't know that that's what's coming, right? I just know that I'm living in the initial loss. And Christine, who's a member of my home group, she has the phone and she's just taking messages from everybody who's calling. And she walks into me, and all the old timers are sitting around my kitchen table, and they are telling me, they're schooling me, and they're like, "Look, you have an incredible relationship with God, and you're not used to being mad at him for anything. But when the anger from this loss comes, you just pile it on God. He is big enough to take it." And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, there's got to be another way, because anytime I introduce anger into the middle of a relationship, the relationship is diminished. And at this time, what I know to be true is that I need more God, not less God. And I don't know. And if I get angry I don't want to get angry at God, there's got to be another way. And Christine walks in the kitchen and she said, "I'm so sorry. I don't want to interrupt, but there's this old timer on the phone. His name is Walter Hall, and he's a little crazy, and he's called 3 times, and he's demanding to talk to you right now. He said he has a message for you from God." And I said, "Oh, well, give me the phone." And I take the phone, and he said, "Darling, I love you." I said, "I love you too, Walter." And Walter was an old Vietnam era Marine. He said, "You know I love Lee." And I said, "Yes, sir, I know that." And he said, "I was sitting there with God this morning meditating on your behalf, because I don't know what you need, but I want to be sure that I deliver it if I can figure it out." And he said, "And God told me to call you right now and to tell you that there are things that happen in this world that break his heart. Lee's death was one of those, and he is going to grieve alongside you, and you are to rest in his arms as you grieve." And I was like, oh my God, that's the other way. Instead of getting angry with God or blaming God for this thing, I am to rest in his arms, and I am to grieve out loud, and I am to walk with him through this entire process. And it changed everything. It changed my spiritual approach. It changed my concept of God. It changed what I was willing to do in relationship with God. It changed everything that fast. And I got everyone's attention in my house, and there were Marines, and there were Catholics, and there were AA members. And I said, "All right, everybody listen up. We are not going to be talking about getting angry with God. God didn't take him. God received him. God doesn't take people. God receives people. And God is going to grieve alongside all of us. And we are going to partner with God through this. Do you understand me?" And everybody in my house went, "Yes, got it." Oh, and the next day, I don't know what happened, but my house was empty for probably 10 minutes, which is weird, right? Because they had a schedule and they were posted up. And I walked out of my bedroom, and I look, and there's a sliding glass door in my kitchen, and there is a girl, and she's out there pacing back in front of the sliding glass door, and I don't know her. And so I walk over, and I open the door, and I said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Is your name Deb? Or did Lee die? Are you the widow?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "My sponsor sent me over here to be helpful to you." And I said, well, sweetie, what can you do? And she said, I really can't do anything, but I can make coffee. And I said, well, why don't you come on in? Because people will be coming, and keep that coffee fresh, would you? And she said, yes, ma'am, I'll do that. And she came in and she posted up in my kitchen for a couple of days. And I just stood there for a moment in the middle of my sadness when I couldn't breathe. And I just looked and I went, oh my God, like you're shooting a 3-rail bank shot just because you can. Look at you showing off. Look at you showing off. My very favorite priest, his name was Father Targonsky, and Father Targonsky, he was a Navy chaplain, and he was a Franciscan priest, and he was awesome. He was about that tall, and he was a bodybuilder, and he ran marathons, and he'd been deployed with Marines so often that he dropped an F-bomb in the middle of a homily one day at Mass. And he was just as real as they come, and just as spiritual and solid, and he was my guy, right? And he baptized me, and he married us, and he came back to do the funerals, all of that. Oh, and one day Father Ski, he'd been gone, and he said, I'm sorry I missed Mass last week. It was the middle of his homily, and he said, but I went to Chicago, and I was doing a retreat for a bunch of Franciscan sisters. And he said, and I'm back now, and he said, and I had the most amazing experience. He said, there was a sister, she was 98 years old, and they were celebrating her 80th year as a Franciscan sister, 80th year as a nun. He said, and she's waiting on an elevator one day. He said, and I just sat down next to her and I said, sister, it's just amazing to me that you have been this faithful to God for 80 years. And he said, and she just patted me on the knee and she said, oh, Father, you have it all wrong. It is he who has had faith in me for 80 years, not the other way around. And that's been my experience. Thank you for allowing me to be part of you.